it's a dream come true. You know, who would have thought, you know, that we'd be here today? And
chance of a lifetime.
That's right, absolutely.
If you've ever watched Swamp People, then you definitely know Jacob Landry, that fearless, rugged, Louisiana-born gator hunter who always seemed unshakable out on the bayou. Jacob's life hasn't just been about chasing gators, it's been about surviving, in every sense of the word. And what he went through? This was the kind of tragedy that hits you deep and lingers after the cameras stop rolling and the world moves on. But here's the thing. You have to stay with me till the very end, because the most heart-wrenching part of this story doesn't come at the beginning. Did Jacob Landry disappear from Swamp People? Jacob Landry, once the unmistakable face of gator hunting on the History Channel's hit show Swamp People, has slowly but noticeably faded from the spotlight in recent seasons, and fans can't help but wonder, what really happened to the man who once dominated the bayou with his larger-than-life presence? For years, viewers followed Jacob as he braved the murky waters of Louisiana, working side by side with his father, Troy Landry, in an unbreakable father-son bond that became one of the show's most cherished storylines. But recently, something has changed. Jacob, who was once a staple of the series, has been appearing less and less, prompting concerned whispers and wild guesses from loyal followers of the show. What's behind this quiet retreat? When season 16 aired and eventually wrapped up in April, eagle-eyed fans couldn't help but notice a pattern. Jacob was no longer featured as prominently as before. Yes, he did make some appearances, especially during high-stakes hunts or special episodes, but compared to his earlier seasons, his role seemed drastically reduced. He was still there, still skilled, still sharp, but just not as present. Some might argue that maybe he needed a break. But for a man whose life seemed inseparable from the swamp, the sudden step back felt like more than just fatigue. Was it a personal decision? Was there something going on behind the scenes? Or could it be that life, as it often does, simply shifted his priorities? Ever wondered what really happened to Jacob Landry behind the cameras of Swamp People? The truth is more heartbreaking than anyone expected. Stick around, because the ending will leave you speechless. Naturally, the absence triggered a flurry of speculation online. Viewers, emotionally invested in Jacob's journey for over a decade, began asking questions. Why wasn't he on screen as much? Did something happen? Was he quietly exiting the show altogether? Several theories began to take root. Some suggested that a personal tragedy may have pushed Jacob to step away from the camera's glare. Others hinted at the possible emotional toll that comes from years of filming in dangerous and unpredictable conditions. After all, spending day after day navigating treacherous waters, wrangling giant alligators, and living in the constant company of camera crews, it couldn't have been easy. Could it be that the thrill had worn off and the weight of it all had started to take its toll? One heartbreaking theory that seemed to strike a chord with many fans involved the passing of Mitchell Gwist, another beloved cast member. Though Mitchell passed away several years ago, reports suggest that his death had a lasting emotional impact on Jacob. It's possible that such a loss reminded Jacob of life's fragility and made him reconsider the cost of constantly living under public scrutiny. And then there's the fact that Jacob also quietly vanished from social media. No more updates, no behind-the-scenes snapshots, no posts about family life or hunting adventures. Was this a conscious decision to protect his peace, to avoid the constant swirl of opinions and judgment that comes with being in the public eye? According to close sources and longtime observers, Jacob is still very much rooted in his hometown of Pierre Part, Louisiana. He hasn't left the swamp, far from it. He's just living a quieter life these days. He's said to be deeply focused on his family, especially on raising his children with the same swamp traditions that shaped him. Imagine him teaching his kids how to steer a boat through the cypress trees, or how to spot an alligator's trail in the marsh. It's a life steeped in heritage and connection to the land, one that doesn't necessarily require a camera crew to validate its meaning. Interestingly, there's been no official confirmation of any conflict between Jacob and the production team or his fellow cast members. No rumors of fights, no signs of drama. And in the absence of drama, perhaps the truth is simply this: Jacob Landry made a quiet choice to take a step back. Maybe he didn't feel the need to explain it to the world. Maybe he believed that his longtime fans would understand, or at the very least respect his silence. And who could blame him? Fame, especially the kind that shines on reality television, can be both a gift and a burden. Over time, even the strongest personalities might seek a gentler pace, a softer life where one's every move isn't edited and aired. As for the future, no one knows for sure. For now, all anyone can do is wait and hope, holding on to the memories of the Jacob they've come to know and love, and wishing him the kind of peace that doesn't always need to be televised. What personal struggles has Jacob Landry faced? To the millions of fans who watched him skillfully wrestle massive gators on national television, Jacob Landry might have always seemed like the unshakable bayou-born hero, fearless in the face of snapping jaws and swampland chaos. But beyond the rugged charm and steady voice that helped make Swamp People a reality TV staple, lies a man who has quietly weathered a storm of emotional and physical tolls, burdens not easily spotted through the TV screen. What if the very dangers that made him a fan favorite were the same ones that slowly pulled him away from the limelight? Jacob once opened up about some of these struggles in a 2014 appearance on The Queen Latifah Show. In that rare glimpse behind the scenes, he admitted that he had come close to getting bitten by a gator several times. That's not just a thrilling soundbite, it's a grim reminder that every filmed hunt was essentially a brush with death. And it wasn't just the gators he had to worry about. He spoke of being hooked in the leg during one of his hunts, a painful incident among many other injuries that have piled up throughout his long career. One might ask, how many scars, both seen and unseen, does one man have to accumulate before he decides to step back? The days on set weren't short bursts of adventure either. They often started at the crack of dawn and didn't end until late at night, all while working under an unforgiving sun with swamp humidity so thick it could leave you dizzy. Temperatures regularly soared past 95 degrees, but as Jacob once shared in an interview, we have to stay alert at all times. It's not just the alligators. The environment itself is incredibly dangerous. A moment of carelessness can cost you your life. That's a heavy mental load to carry day after day. Can you imagine working in a place where one wrong step, one momentary distraction, could literally mean death? But perhaps one of the most overlooked elements in Jacob's story is the emotional strain of balancing fame with family. While some reality TV stars chase camera time with relentless hunger, Jacob chose a different path. He slowly scaled back his appearances, opting for fewer episodes and more evenings at home. Why? Because every hour he spent under the glaring sun and sharper claws of gators was an hour he wasn't spending with his wife and children. According to one insider, every moment spent filming was a moment away from his wife and kids, and that trade-off didn't sit easy. For Jacob, family wasn't just a backdrop, it was the anchor. He and his loved ones have always strived to maintain a balance between personal life and professional obligations, and that priority eventually began to outweigh the call of the wild. Of course, the physical threats never went away. If anything, they grew more pressing as the years went on. The Louisiana swamps are unpredictable and cruel. Jacob wasn't just dealing with alligators that could flip an entire boat in one lunge. He was also maneuvering through strong currents, often in complete darkness. He had to guide both himself and the camera crews through treacherous terrain, which only amplified the risk. As his father, Troy Landry, once said about filming, "The more people you've got in harm's way, the more dangerous it is, and the more careful you have to be." That meant Jacob had to take responsibility not only for his own safety, but also for everyone else involved. Isn't that a tremendous weight to carry, especially when your own life's on the line too? At a certain point, any rational person has to pause and ask, is the danger worth it? Is the price of continuing this legacy too steep when there's a family waiting at home and a future beyond the swamp that deserves attention too? So when people wonder why Jacob Landry, this fearless, seemingly unstoppable man, has gradually taken a step back from the spotlight, the answer is far more human and complex than many might think. So, why has Jacob Landry stayed so silent on social media? Stick around, because the reason might surprise you more than you think. Why has Jacob Landry stayed silent on social media? For fans of the hit reality show Swamp People, the sudden silence of Jacob Landry across social media has felt like someone turned off the volume in the middle of a favorite song. It's not just the lack of photos, updates, or behind-the-scenes glimpses that has people talking. It's the loud message that his absence seems to carry. At first, some viewers thought maybe he was just taking a break. But over time, it became clear that this wasn't a passing phase. Jacob's withdrawal from the public eye appears to be more than just coincidence. In fact, many now believe it's a carefully thought-out decision, a quiet but powerful response to the complicated reality of life under the constant gaze of television cameras and public expectations. One major reason behind Jacob's retreat seems to stem from the long-standing criticism he and his family have faced from animal rights activists. Since Swamp People first aired, animal welfare groups have raised strong objections, insisting that showcasing alligator hunting for entertainment is not just distasteful, but unethical. These critics argue that the show crosses a line, glamorizing a dangerous practice and potentially distorting the true purpose behind regulated hunting. Jacob, in particular, found himself at the center of this storm. Despite his family's firm stance that alligator hunting is not only legal, but crucial for preserving the delicate balance of Louisiana's wetlands, the attacks kept coming. How do you defend a tradition that's been in your family for generations when it's being called barbaric by people who've never set foot in the bayou? As the show's popularity soared, so did the backlash. The louder the fans cheered, the sharper the critics became. Was it really fair, they asked, to turn wildlife into a ratings game? Could viewers tell the difference between conservation and exploitation? Jacob stood his ground, often echoing his father Troy's sentiment that they weren't in it for the show. They were in it for their way of life. But still, the attacks took a toll. After all, being portrayed as a villain simply for doing what your ancestors have done for generations, what you believe helps your community and environment, can wear anyone down. And then there's the other elephant in the room, the ongoing skepticism over how real reality TV truly is. As fans became more media savvy, they started to ask tough questions. Was everything we saw on Swamp People really happening as it appeared? Some internet users, especially on forums like Reddit, began speculating that the dramatic gator battles and adrenaline-filled moments were perhaps a bit too perfect. One post, now deleted, purportedly from a distant relative of the Landry family, claimed that Jacob wasn't always keen on joining the hunts, and that the show's producers had a heavier hand in shaping the narrative than viewers might suspect. Could it be, fans wondered, that the rough-and-tumble swamp life was partially manufactured for dramatic effect? Jacob didn't stay silent on that front. He firmly denied the idea that anything was staged or faked. According to him, the danger and excitement were all real. No need to add Hollywood sparkles. "Life on the swamp is dramatic enough," he reportedly said in a rare off-camera conversation. But when viewers are given conflicting stories, one from a star of the show and another from someone who claims to know the family, it creates a gray area where truth becomes murky. And in that murkiness, assumptions fester. Beyond the critics and conspiracy theories, perhaps the most personal and powerful reason for Jacob's disappearance from the digital world is his desire to protect his family, especially his children. Unlike many other reality stars who lean into the fame, sharing every detail of their lives on Instagram or TikTok, Jacob chose a different path. He didn't want his kids to grow up thinking they were characters on a television series. He didn't want their childhoods to be overshadowed by camera crews or turned into content for fans and critics alike to dissect. "I want them to have a childhood, not a brand," he reportedly shared in one candid moment, a simple yet powerful sentence that tells you everything about his priorities. So, where is Jacob Landry today? He's likely out in the wetlands doing what he's always done, without the cameras, without the critics, just him and the bayou. He may not be showing up in your social feed, but that doesn't mean he's disappeared. Sometimes, stepping back is the most powerful move a person can make. Sometimes, the loudest statement comes from simply choosing silence. So, before you think his story is over, stick around till the very end, because what comes next is just as powerful. How does Jacob Landry continue to impact the Swamp People legacy? Despite stepping away from the bright lights and fanfare of television, Jacob Landry's story didn't fade into the background. It simply shifted into a deeper, more meaningful rhythm, one rooted in family, tradition, and quiet legacy. Those who followed Jacob on Swamp People might remember him as the calm but tough gator hunter navigating the murky waters of Louisiana's bayous with a steady hand and a sharp eye. But as the cameras slowed and the episodes dwindled, something much richer began to unfold in the stillness. The passing of wisdom from father to sons, and the deliberate shaping of a legacy that transcends entertainment. People around Jacob say that his influence is far more profound now than when he was on television. Isn't it interesting how someone can become even more impactful after they leave the spotlight? Jacob has taken his role as a father and cultural steward to heart. He's not just showing his boys, Ridge and Case, how to hunt gators or drive a boat. He's teaching them patience, responsibility, and what it truly means to live in harmony with nature. Those values are hard to teach in words, aren't they? So Jacob teaches by doing, just like his own father Troy did before him. He brings the boys into the swamp, lets them feel the quiet, the challenge, the history held in every cypress root and ripple of water. It's not just about catching something, it's about becoming someone. Those who know Ridge will tell you, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. By 15, Ridge was already steering his own boat and standing shoulder to shoulder with his father and grandfather during alligator season. Then came that unforgettable moment in 2023, Ridge on his own, facing down an 11-foot, 10-inch beast that dragged his boat sideways across the channel. Could there be a better symbol of legacy in motion? That one scene, 3 generations bound by tradition, heart, and grit, played out not for ratings, but for real. People close to Jacob say it wasn't just pride he felt that day, it was awe. A full-circle moment that showed him all the long days in the swamp, the quiet lessons, and the steady hand-holding were already echoing forward. Even though he's no longer front and center on TV, Jacob hasn't vanished. He still lives in Pierre Part, a small town where life flows like the bayou waters, slow, deep, and full of memory. He's not just a hunter there, he's a neighbor, a conservationist, and someone people respect. Locals say that if you walk into a bait shop or pass him at the gas station, he's the same Jacob from the screen, humble, warm, always grounded. And while he rarely broadcasts his life, when he does share glimpses on social media, it's not for show. There are no flashy poses or contrived family portraits. Instead, you'll find peaceful shots of the swamp, a sunrise from the boat, or a candid snap of ridge and case, gearing up for a hunt. It's real, and that's what makes it resonate. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.